Hi, welcome to Opsrace training program. In today's episode, we'll look at how HTTP status code works. So HTTP status code is basically a response, a quick response to a request. So let's look at an example. Let's say this is the data and we can see like this person is sad. He has to say something, he has to explain the reason, but before getting the reason, but before processing what is the cause, we understand by his expression that this person is sad. This is another data and we know that this is happy. So HTTP status code is like an expression of the server. If he's a sad, if he has happy, or if he's angry. So all these expressions are like HTTP status code. A status code could be with anything, with any type of data. It could be human, it could be an apple or a tortoise or turtle. It could be anything, but the status code is like the expression. In HTTP status code, we have these 5 types of status code. So these are ranges basically. Number one is informational responses, which start from 100 to 199, and then we have successful responses which start from the 200 to 299, redirectional messages, client error responses, and server error responses. So these are the ranges which tells us different type of expression from the server, if server is happy, if server is angry, or whatever that is. So 1xs, it means 100, 101, 2, 3 till 199. So it provide preliminary information about a request progress. So if you have made a request, maybe you try to send again a request, it will tell you like what is happening or what is the situation. So 100 is continue when the client send so the client want to send some information which is like really very large, so it can convert it to different parts and can send one by one, whereas once server receive this request, so he can tell the client that continue, like send me the next one and the next one. Sometimes clients want to switch the protocol. They request the server that I need to change the protocol, I do not accept this protocol, and server may respond, okay, I accept your request and I'm switching the protocol. So in that case it will return 101. 102 means like it is processing whatever the request was, it's in the process, not completed. 103 is early hand, so these are basically used to preload certain things. We are not interested in these for now. These are just for the information. Okay, now 200, this is another series which start from 200 and ends at 299. That's why it's called 2xs success messages. This is a request from client is received, understood, and accepted. So this lead to the success messages. So these are the type. 200, okay, this is a general response where we tell the server everything is fine. 201 is created. So generally when you make the post request or we want to create something that happened, 202 is accepted. 203 is non-authoritative information. 204 no content. 200 is standardized response. 201 is request is fulfilled and a new resource is created as well, generally when we call the endpoint which creates something. 202 is request is completed but the processing has not been completed. So maybe you ask the server to send an email, you ask the server to deduct some money, so it will receive the request successfully, and as it takes time because it has to communicate to third party gateway, so in that immediate situation it may not have completed its processing, so that's why it returned 202. 204 request successfully processed and there is no returning content. So when you don't have any content to return, let's say you delete some record and you don't want to return anything, you just want this operation to be successful without any content, so you can mention 204. 3xx, these are the redirection messages. So this is a series, 300 start and 399. So I have listed couple of them, but there might be some others as well. 300 mean there are multiple choices, so the client has to select one. 301 is moved permanently. So the URL you are trying to access is now changed to another URL, and when the server responds with 301, it will return the new URL as well. 302 is a temporarily moved. 303 see others. 304 not modify. So if you keep requesting same resource again and again, and if it is not modify, maybe some cached objects, it can return the content is not modify. 400 are client side errors. Error seems to have been caused by the client. So there is some input that we have provided to the API, and based on that input the server is throwing this error. So this is a problem with the user input, and it should be fixed by changing the input. So if you keep sending the same information again and again and you are receiving the error, this means that you have to change your input. 400 is like bad request. This is a journal error, like server is not accepting your input and hence throwing the error. 401 is authorized unauthorized, which means authentication is required. You have not provided it, or the authentication that was provided is failed. 403 forbidden, so request contain valid data, so it may contain a token, it may contain credential, something like that, but this person may not have access to certain part, to certain API. That's why 403 forbidden is thrown. Whereas 401 is the authentication is failed altogether. In 403 the authentication or the authentication part is done, but maybe authorization has failed, or the thing that you are trying to do is you do not have permission for that. 404 not found. When resource is not found, then generally this error is thrown. Maybe you are trying to access a URL, that URL does not exist, so you will see 404. If you are trying to get a record, a car, if that is not found, it will throw 404. 405 method not allowed. So we know that whenever we make HTTP request, we use get, put, post, patch method, and if that method is not supported, so there is no code that must be executed, then it will just simply give you 405. 500 server errors. So 500 series represent that this error or this problem has been caused by the server. So there is some certain situation on the server which is causing the error. Whereas 400 series was there was an error, but it is caused by your input, by the input from the client. So some data, maybe some wrong URL or some wrong parameter, something like that. But 500 is server error. It's mostly server is unable to process, or this has been caused by server itself. There are some codes important. 500 is internal server error. So this is a very generic journal error that is thrown. Maybe server is not able to connect to database, server is not able to load any library or class or something, or there could be some other error. So in all those cases where server is unable to process data, it may throw 500 error. 501 is not implemented, which means the request that you have sent is server is not able to understand it, or it may not have implemented the logic for that. But in that case 501 can be used. 502 is a bad gateway, which is like the API or the service you are calling basically internally calls another service, and it has received some error. Service unavailable. This could be the API we are trying to call. At that point, that service is overloaded, or there is some issue where it cannot process or it cannot receive your request. 504 is gateway timeout. Again, this is similar to 502. In 502 we receive some bad error or some exception. In 504 we have contacted the other service which is taking too much time to respond us. So in that case our service will just simply time out. So these are few error types. I guess these are very important to understand when we are implementing REST API. These are very important for the testing purposes, and also in interviews it is really very important. I hope you understand the concept. See you in the next section.